the politicians don't get the message, because the result was absolutely overwhelming, more than 61%. So I'm saying that the battle is won, but clearly the war is ongoing, and it will be ongoing for quite some time.
Well, you also mentioned in your article that opposition leader Peter Dutton floated the idea of a second referendum during the course of the campaign. Now, that was if the Voice to Parliament were to fail. Do you believe he'll do that, or given the result, do you think Peter Dutton will take the hint and bury the whole idea?
Well, that was a spectacular own goal, because obviously if there were going to be a second referendum, then the same could have been achieved by simply voting yes in the first referendum, and it would have been much less costly and there would be less trauma. I think both the government and the opposition are still obsessed with the idea of Aboriginal disadvantage. Clearly there is Aboriginal disadvantage, but any aid that we give to them has to be targeted. It has to be something that deals with the problems of rural Aboriginals in rural communities. Now, the opposition leader, Peter Dutton, has indicated, yes, that he might want to have a second referendum, but I understand that he now changed his tune and he may not do it after all. I watched a television interview with him yesterday, and he seemed to suggest, even though I'm not sure my interpretation is correct, but I think he suggested that perhaps it is necessary for people, including his own political party, to have another look at the whole matter. Now, in this context, I would also like to mention the Queensland opposition leader, who came out very strongly in favor of a Makarrata-type commission and also a treaty. That was in the context of legislation which has been adopted by the Palisade government a few months ago, legislation which was supported also very strongly by the opposition leader in Queensland. He even suggested that if I become Premier of the state, there is no way I will change that legislation or repeal that legislation. Well, he too obviously has been listening to the people of Queensland, and yesterday he came out very strongly against the legislation. So clearly, the Liberal Party flipped their position, and I hope he will keep his promise even when he becomes Premier of the state, Queensland. Now, this is important because 69% of people in Queensland actually voted no. So the message is very clear. The people in this state are not in favor of this band-aid solution, which the Voice obviously would have been. And it would have been a band-aid solution because it would not have improved the plight of Aboriginals. It would have exacerbated the problems